Martin Luther King Jr. was a brilliant brother, but he didn't stand because he read Nietzsche and Niebuhr. He didn't stand because he read Karl Barth and Paul Tillich. He didn't stand even because he read Gandhi. He gave his life over to that cross-bound peasant who said, I came to preach good news to the poor. He gave his life over to that one who said, nobody takes my life. I lay it down, and if I lay it down, I'll pick it up again. Nobody can steal my life. I freely give it. The Christian faith is a revolutionary idea. And the reason why some of you are slaves is you are bound up and you are worried about what somebody else can do to you. But if you would ever catch hold of this faith, if you would ever just stop singing it on Sunday and forgetting about it on Monday, if you would come to see that this is no placebo for the weak-minded and for the faint of heart, that there is power in this faith, you'll begin to do things that folk will say that you must be crazy. And yes, I'm crazy for Jesus. I've given my life over to the one who gives power to the faint. And so somebody ought to walk out here this morning glad, not just because you got an Easter suit or an Easter dress. It looks good, but who cares? If you come in here and leave the way you came, but you ought to step out on faith. You ought to start a new business in the middle of a recession. You ought to go back to school. You ought to build a school. You ought to work on behalf of children. You ought to work on behalf of seniors. You ought to dare to do the impossible. Build a community center in the middle of a recession. Meet the needs of the poor, because the mission is bigger now than it's ever been before.